Hello and welcome to VOP Business Show. My name is Esther Wachuku. Now, the publishing industry in Nigeria is facing a number of challenges, and some of the country's oldest publishing houses are struggling to stay afloat. From print media to companies and millions of schools scattered around the country, Nigeria's demand for paper is huge. But as in many once thriving industries, the industry is actually going through its own ordeals. It's being squeezed from all sides by rising digital innovations, declining reading culture, and rising cost of printing. This development has led to a decline in demand for printed books, which has hurt traditional publishers. In order for us to actually talk about this and what it portends for the future of reading in Nigeria, let's welcome Sunday Ehiato, a reporter with a leading national newspaper in Nigeria. Hello, Sunday, and welcome to VOP Business Show. Hello, Sunday, if you kindly unmute your mic so I can hear you. Unmute your mic, please. All right, while we'll try to connect with Sunday, let's go into other business stories that are currently trending. We'll come back to that conversation. All right, okay, apparently he's in. Sunday, hello and welcome to the VOP Business Show.
Hi, Esther. Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Yes,
Unmute your mic, please, and tell me if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you clearly now. Thank you very much. So we've seen that there's a decline in the reading culture. That's when publishing companies are already going down the drain due to the fact that economic policies, especially forex and importation of paper, inconsistent forex exchange between the naira and the dollar, has made the industry go through its own situation and they're in a very tight corner. What's your take on that?
Well, good afternoon, Esther, and good afternoon to every listener out there. Um, I would say it's a very sad development because grappling with
Hello, Sunday, I can't hear you. Can you kindly possibly speak louder? I can hear you right
Yes,
here
can
in
you
the
hear me?
studio.
I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
All right, go
Can you hear
ahead.
me?
Thank you.
Yes. I was saying that it's a very sad development, just as we are still battling with to make, you know, to read, how to make them to improve on their reading culture. As the popular saying, if you want to hide anything from a Nigerian, just hide it in the book, and we are now battling with this as well. So, but it's expected because look at the indices indicated in the report which you just mentioned, you will see that it's that there will definitely be a decline. Of course, when the country has been embattled with high inflation rates and several economic challenges, you understand. However, I would like to still differ a bit in some ways, in some words, with the report has put out there because for me, I feel beyond culture, I mean the inflation mentioned all of that. There are several other factors that was not covered in the report. You understand? Because when you are talking about a a country that is still a country, one of the indices that will help them is if they can domesticate all their production parameters. You understand? So, what's the need of importing and produce? We import everything. Why can't we? What's it called? Focus, invest on our local manufacturing, um, and then empower them to produce paper that is usable. You know, publishing firms and publishing organizations. You understand? Why
All
must
right.
we import? Why must we import? That's the first question I start to ask. Why? we can make paper here in Nigeria. You understand? So looking at what the dollar rate is saying now, you know, you will expect that of course there will be inflation. Quantity you can buy with the same amount.
The problem is as a result of almost everything has gone digital right now. People no longer have to rely on papers anymore. In corporate organizations, any internal memo, any circular is done digitally. In fact, they are currently doing away with having physical paper. That's one problem that a couple of, would I say, that could be one problem that the publishers are currently going through. All right, we seem to have lost connection with Sunday, but we'll continue on that conversation as well. Now, moving on to other stories in the business scene, the Central Bank of Nigeria has asked deposit money banks and other financial institutions in the country to increase monitoring of transactions with businesses and persons in and from Cameroon, Croatia, and Vietnam. This was according to a circular reference which was issued on Thursday by the Director, Financial Policy and Regulation, Mr. Chibuzo Efobi. According to the CBN, Nigerian banks and other financial institutions need to watch transactions with those countries because they had been recently placed on a grey list by the Financial Action Task Force. The Financial Action Task Force is an international body whose purpose is to develop and promote measures to combat money laundering, terrorist and proliferation financing. Meanwhile, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, Mele, has announced that the NNPCL would be constructing another international gas pipeline worth about $8 billion. NNPCL and its partners are currently working on the construction of the $25 billion Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline that is to supply gas from Nigeria to about 11 African countries and transport same from Morocco to Europe. Speaking during a panel session at the ongoing 8th Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries International Seminar in Vienna, Austria, Kari stated that the proposed $8 billion pipeline would go through Niger Republic to Algeria and then to Europe. The NNPC helmsman said there were many other gas projects being handled by the oil company to further deepen the penetration of gas in Nigeria and other nations. In another development, Twitter's Threads, has continued to record remarkable success since its launch with a total sign-up of 30 million in less than 24 hours, and that is according to its founder, Mark Zuckerberg. The CEO said there is no plan yet to drop adverts or monetize the platform till it achieves a certain height. The app is now available to download from Apple's App Store and Google's Play Store in over 100 countries, including the UK, US, Australia, Canada, Japan, and Nigeria. Meta, the parent company of Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, has been building Threads for several months and has sought to recruit celebrity users who have abandoned Twitter in protest at Musk's often erratic leadership. The launch of the app has, however, generated mixed reactions all over social media. We have back with us virtually Sunday Ehiato. Sunday, if you can hear me, kindly indicate.
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Hello, Sunday.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you very well.
All right, thank God the connection is quite better now. So yes. I was trying to ask you a question that you think that one of the reasons is because everything has gone digital. We no longer have to rely on the manual process of writing or having to read from, normal textbooks. If everything can be downloaded, if everything can be digitally obtained. Do you think that's why the publishing companies and industries are going through this stifling moment?
No. I would like to. I disagree with that. When the social media came around and all of that, there was this fear that newspaper would become a thing of the past and all of that. One of such fears was that probably it affected some industry of publishing, probably the book sector and all of that, as we can have some books on e-books and all of that, probably. But when it comes to newspaper, it has affected as much as people had feared it would. Do you understand? Because one of the evidence, one of the very irreplaceable quality of newspaper and of course print in general is the permanency. You understand? So because of the permanent attribute of newspaper and print materials itself, it makes it still relevant and still what's it called, important in today's world. You understand? Because of course you know for real that whatsoever you put online, in years time you can decide to delete it, you can decide to edit it, you can decide to correct it, thereby it loses its authenticity. You understand? So based on this, I don't think that is really much why we are having this issue as compared to the economy situation we currently facing in Nigeria. I will more like attribute it to the economic situation. Sorry.
Sunday, you're a reporter with a leading Nigerian newspaper. Whenever you have to go on field to cover events, you usually, send this digitally compared to before where you had to get back to the office, write everything down on paper, possibly before, that particular story is printed. So that's why I'm asking again, if everything has become so digitized, a lot of companies no longer want to go through the manual process of doing things because, digitization has helped to make cost of doing business easy. Don't you think that's one major strong, would I say, vacuum that has been created for the publishing industry that currently they are going through the dry moment?
What I was trying to explain earlier was that I think with your point, what it means is that there has been an involvement
Okay.
and publishing houses have evolved over time. You understand? So no longer filing stories on paper. Fine, quite all right. We're filing our stories by emails and all of that. However, we still publish on paper. And again, aside publishing on paper, we now have online platforms as well. You understand? So you can access us both on online and both on paper. You get so, but stopping to print is what I'm saying.
All right.
Houses would not media or the traditional media houses would still be relevant in that they will still continue to print
All right.
because of that permanent attribute. However, how has it affected the publishing industry as a whole? I would say to some extent it has. You know, of course, why do I need to carry along with me 1,500 pages of a book when I can just go on my phone and download the e-copy? You understand? However, don't forget that these e-copies are also monetized in their own respect as well. So it's not about they losing money. They are just learning a new way to make money at
Okay.
no extra cost.
All right.
You understand?
All right.
So
True.
that's why I do want to agree with the assumption of digital issue.
So, Sunday, if you can recall, the traditional publishing houses, they usually publish educational materials for secondary schools, primary schools, and even tertiary institutions. The Macmillans, the Evans, these were very, popular publishing companies. But now they're no longer as prevalent as they used to be. Right now, once you have to purchase any of this material, you literally be asked to actually, download the e-copy of that particular textbook. Another thing too is that these textbooks have become so expensive, and it discourages, buyers, that is potential investors or those who want to buy from buying. How do you think this can be mitigated? How can this be helped?
I practically read Macmillan all through my primary school. Like, I mean, if memory serves me right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what they read. My son is also in primary school now, and
Okay.
I could tell you he still read books, he still use books. You understand? But not the type of books we used when we were younger. You understand? So, but I think there's an improvement. As I said, they will only learn how to adjust to the social time that we are. You understand? So that the Macmillans and all of that, because they probably are now outdated. You understand? To this level of development, level of civilization, and level of intelligence that the new generations are born with, per se. I mean, my 2 years old operates my tab as if I can never even operate. So, but how do we? So the question now is, do we now inculcate all this together, still ensure we preserve the publishing firm as we used to know, and they don't run out of business? They also have to up their game. That's the point. They just have to up their games. You know, now I remember I mean, in those days, you print with the Gutenberg machines, and it takes a longer time before you finish and all of that. There are now sophisticated machines that print at quicker hours and then get, but of course, more expensive than you could ever imagine. However, it means that whatever they are printing will also come out more expensive. You get it? So, to the new norm is the major issue. You understand? And again, one problem with the publishing firm, of course, the old ones, older publishing firms, as illustrated in those reports, is the inability to transition between the olden time to the new times we are. You know, how is their, go and check their staffing. When you get there, some of them, they've spent 30 years, 25 years in that same organization. It is not youth driven that it's supposed to be. When you are growing with time, you bring in the people of those time to pilot the affair of the organization. They would then be able to transform the organization to kick into the time that we are. Are you getting my point? But it's too peaceful. You understand? You can't just break into the publishing house. The way you graduate from school, of course, as a mass communication student, and you wish to be a broadcaster, you want to be a print journalist, don't forget that publishing is still part of mass communication.
Very well.
You really would find anyone going into that space, because they are not also making it liberal enough for them to come into that space. You are waiting and you are sticking to your old way of doing things, and then you still want to get the same good result you used to get in that time. It can happen. So they need to open up.
All right.
Bring in fresh eggs, bring in the Gen Zs, as they call them now. Let them pilot with their ideas. Let them bring in innovation into the sector.
All right,
you
Sanjay.
understand?
Oh, okay. I want to believe that some of these publishing houses are already evolving with the time. But let's look at the cost of importation. Nigeria relies heavily on importation. We have the raw materials to, make paper. That is a primary, would I call it, let me not use the word English, that's a primary rudiment that is needed for any publishing house. But they import paper, and due to the inconsistent forex exchange in the market, that actually, makes it a little bit harder for them to buy as much as they would need. They are also, being careful, and they are curtailing their costs. But apparently, do you think the publishing houses are more cost inclusive than profit driven?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier that there is no progress you can see in that sector if you are still importing your raw material. You can't be importing and you are expecting progress. How can you? I mean, just importing papers alone, we are spending 1.6 trillion naira in 5 years. 1.6 trillion. What does that tell? What does that foretell on our economy? We are taking this of the Nigeria economy, importing those. Why can't we import? Invest this same amount or half of it to ensure we are able to refine our own roots here, so we don't need to import. I remember in those days, Esther, we used to have some books we call lantern notebooks.
Yes.
Do you remember them?
Yes.
What happened to them? What happened to those notebooks? These were books that were refined in Nigeria and made in Nigeria. What happened to them?
Even onward notebooks as well.
Words, let me tell you the hard truth. Do you know that in those days, before now, the newspaper, that paper was used to be produced in Nigeria. It used to be produced in Nigeria, but we now import them practically now. So now you see, what's the cost, what's the implication with the inflation and the imbalanced exchange rate and what is the implication on media houses? You that not all of, in fact, I know of a national media house that no longer publish physical copy.
It's now all digital.
They can't afford to publish a, a very old national newspaper house. They no longer publish the physical. You get my point? Why? Because they can't import. They can't spend that huge amount to import paper and then sell it for a regulated amount in Nigeria. Getting me? And then you don't have enough adverts and all of that to help your funding. Are you getting me? So how do we help ourselves out of this? Why can't all these publishing firms come together and put their heads together and create a manufacturing sector, at least a company that can refine woods and create papers? Why can't they come? This is not a matter of monopoly now, you understand? But it's an idea that all of them can push. And then you then start relieving yourself from all these unnecessary dollar naira differences and all of that. And this will also help our economy in the long run. You understand? But the more we keep importing paper, in fact, is there anything we don't import in Nigeria, even toothpick? At the point I heard, we will soon be importing gari from India. You know, so we should be able to refine our woods and produce paper here.
All right, so do you think that this is one major problem that has discouraged the reading culture among the young people? One would think that now that they have information at the tip, of their finger, which is through the mobile phones or the smartphones, but that has in a way sort of inhibited the culture of reading. There's a saying that there is nothing as the paperback itself, the feel of the paper, the feel of the book on the hand. It makes you serious to want to, indulge in whatever it is that you're trying to digest from that. Do you think that this has reduced the reading culture in the country?
Well, I think not just it, several other factors probably. As I mentioned earlier, I said we are at a different time. I mean, you alluded to one of our axioms when we're growing, feels like holding paper and all of that. But this generation doesn't have that kind of mentality with us. That's the fact. They want their iPad, they want their iPads, they want their tabs.
So in other words, you're saying that they don't have the patience. That patience isn't there.
It is no. Is the interest in what I want to read. Are you talking about what kind of is the interest is different? The interest is now different. So I could take newspaper. I mean I read newspaper every day. Not only working in the newspaper organization, I read newspaper every day. And it didn't just start. It started from me watching my father read newspaper, and I'm now reading newspaper. But newspaper, my son probably will grow up and is not concerned. You understand? So the time has changed. So the paper is going out, not outdated now, but the set of generation it was meant for has also lived their own time. So the new generation, probably newspaper is not their thing, probably reading the book is not that, but they also read. They read e-books, they read, of course you heard the story of the girl, the Ojuku girl that scored the highest, that had the highest score in JAM. She tells you in time she invests in her reading. You understand? So I don't think, really, if you look at it, the reading culture has really depreciated that much as we paint it to be. But I think the interest has varied. What we read, what do they like to read these days? And because of what they like to read, they know where to get it. Right. So you see the youth spending their time on Instagram reading all sorts of stories, or that's where their interest now lies. They don't want to know what's happening in the country. They don't want to know what's happening in any other place. But they still read. Reading is reading.
All right, Sunday Ignato, thank you so much for being part of the VOP Business Show. I really like and I appreciate your input on the program.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So that's all on VOP Business Show today. We would like you to subscribe and engage us on YouTube. It is Voice of the People TV. And of course on other social media platforms at VOP TV Live. My name is Esther Nwachukwu. Thank you for staying with us.